First thing I want to do is I want to get the brake drums off. Well, howdy folks, and welcome back to the channel. You can see we are out here in the back 40 in front of Chuck's Jeep here. We have been needing to do a bunch of steering work and front suspension work to Chuck's Jeep. We have gotten almost all the pieces. I'm pretty sure we've got enough pieces to go ahead and get the steering box replaced. We're going to convert it to an A2 box. The reason for that is because good A2 boxes are hard to find and they're very expensive, and Chuck's widow just does not have the money to go ahead and replace it with an A1 box. And so we got it. I had an A2 box, so we picked up that one, and we picked up another one, and then we've got an A2 steering column. So we'll be able to convert it over to A2, and then because the windshield, Chuck already did that. He converted the windshield over to an A2 windshield anyway. But we also have some pretty seriously worn out suspension bushings. We've got a flat tire here that we've got to get fixed, but we've got some pretty significant steering issues. So rather than go ahead and take the whole front end apart and replace the bushings individually, put the whole front end back together, there's only about 8 or 10 bolts that hold the whole front suspension assembly on. So what we're going to do is we're going to go out to the secret parts stash, and we have a complete front suspension assembly sitting there. So we're going to get that, bring it down, put it in the shop, and go and inspect it, make sure that the bushings are good on it, that the shocks are good on it, and everything else. And then once we're done cleaning it up, making sure the brakes are good, repacking the bearings, doing all of that work, then we'll go ahead and bring Chuck's Jeep down and get basically the front suspension and the steering done at the same time. So at any rate, stick around. This is probably going to be spread out over 2 or 3 videos, because there's quite a bit of work that we've got to do. This pallet has degenerated considerably since the last time I've had anything on it, or since I put this stuff up there. So I have to set this stuff down and try to get a better bite on it. we got it now. All right, you can see we have a complete front suspension assembly here. So what we are going to have to do, obviously, you know, we've got a brake hose here fitting that we may have to replace, but we're going to go ahead and look around on it. We've got the boots are all cracked on it. They're not great, but I think all of the bushings are in good shape. But we'll go ahead and get it off of the pallet here and then throw this pallet in the burn pile. We are going to have to replace the shock absorber bushings because those are rough. But those, I'm pretty sure I've got more of those laying around. So at any rate, that's what we've got. So let's get digging into it. All right, folks, we're back. It's been a couple of days. I had to go out of town yesterday and do some stuff. So at any rate, the night that we brought this in, or the afternoon we brought this in, I went ahead and sprayed the drums down with some penetrating oil of some kind. So now what we're going to do is we're going to wrap a chain around this thing. We're going to pick it up, flip it over, and then we've got that cart. And I'll drag this cart out here. We're going to set it down on this cart right here. So let's get to it. That is the end of that pallet for sure. Okay, now, how are we going to do this? Get that balanced a little bit. set it back down, flip it over, and then pick it up and set it on the cart. I realize that this is not the best way to do it, not the most ideal way to do it, but sometimes you just got to use the tools that you got available. Okay, now the first thing I want to do is I want to get the brake drums off so we can see what the brakes look like. And I got a feeling that these are going to be kind of tight on here and rusted on here. They are wanting to turn. Let me get a pry bar. Get an alignment bar on here and kind of twist this stuff around, break the rust loose from the brake shoes. And now we should be able to just pry the brake drums right off. We might have to get in and back the adjustment off, but I'm hoping we don't. You can see we've got a lot of rust and stuff dropping down. This thing has been sitting outside for God only knows how many years. A lot of times when you get stuff that's rusted up like this, you really can't go ahead and try to back the adjusters off, because a lot of times the adjusters are frozen solid, and you'll just end up sitting there just frustrating yourself, you know, trying to get it off. I'm going to get a different pry bar, and we'll get this drum pried off of here. The shoes actually look pretty good inside right now. But they are, the inside, you know, the drum is pretty rusty, I'm sure. And there we go. Yeah, you can see all the rust inside there. This will actually clean up pretty well without having to, without needing to turn it. We'll get in there with a wire wheel, kind of clean them up, see how good they look. So you can see that the shoes are still in really good shape. We don't have an awful lot of rust and, you know, rust and stuff in there to deal with, and the you know, the shoes are almost brand new. So we'll go ahead and get the other side off, and I'll show you what those look like once we get the other side off. All right, we've got both the drums off now. You'd see this one had a lot more dirt on it, but I was able to back the adjuster off. But it was really tight due to rust and other corrosion right here, and the drum fits really tight on this hub, so that's what took so long to get that one off. But at any rate, everything is looking pretty good here. Now we're going to go ahead and pull the brakes off. We'll do that tonight, and then we'll get to kind of cleaning this up. We'll hit it with a wire wheel, kind of clean it up, and spritz a little bit of paint here and there on it. We'll take it out and hit it with a pressure washer once we get the shoes off. So let's get to that. Let me find my brake tools. I think we've got a special little tool to get in there and do that, and I think that special little tool is a screwdriver, if I remember correctly. Okay, we need a little bit smaller punch than that. There we go. So when we put this all back together, I'll show you guys a little bit better how this all goes together and comes apart. It is different than what you're used to seeing on normal drum brakes. There ain't nothing normal about a 151. Okay, now we should be able to just... There we go. We're going to have to do some serious cleanup on this stuff here. And there we go. We got our brake shoes off. And we'll go ahead and get the other side done, and then and I think tomorrow we'll go ahead and get this stuff pressure washed and see what we got. So we'll be back tomorrow. All right, well, we got the brakes all taken apart and off of this front suspension assembly. Right now, we've got to get this thing pressure washed, try to get the worst of the dirt and everything off of it, and so we can go ahead and start assessing and replacing parts as needed. All right, we can see that it is much cleaner than it was. We didn't have an awful lot of grease and nastiness, but what we did have was a lot of sand and dirt because it had been sitting out for a long time. So we can kind of go over this and look. We've got some boots that are not in the greatest of shape, but we can look at the bushings, and the bushings all look to be pretty good. So I think that we're going to be pretty good just swapping this whole suspension system out. Now, one of the things that we are going to do is these wheel cylinders are 3/4 inch. We're going to be changing. That's what's standard on a 151 A1. We are going to be changing those out to go to the larger A2 wheel cylinders. What that does, that's going to give us better braking on the front. Instead of having a 50-50 split with our braking, we're going to have a, what is 60-40, I think is what it amounts to. And that's going to make Chuck's Jeep a lot safer on the road for his widow, so that she can drive it, you know, as safely as possible. We can look at the drums here, and they've got some surface rust on them. This one here's got some surface rust, but it's no pitting. This one here, we're going to have to go in and clean it up a little bit better to see whether we've got any pitting or not. If we got any pitting in it, then, you know, we're not going to be able to use it. We also got to look at the shocks too. Okay, we may have to go ahead, and I'm probably going to end up pulling the shocks out and changing those out, or at least inspecting them to make sure that the shock shafts, because everything else has been out, you know, for a long time, and you know, we've got some surface rust issues, but I want to make sure that what we have is, you know, is good shocks that are not that don't have any rust on the shaft, the exposed part of the shaft. Any rust on the exposed part of the shaft will cause the seals to start leaking, and then next thing you know, you got blown out shocks. So at any rate, oh, and we have a visitor here. He must be thirsty. He is drinking the water that is on the concrete here. We get them kind of lizards here all the time in the summertime, and man, they're great bug eaters. So, at any rate, we'll go ahead and let this dry out, and then we'll get to work on. Oh crap! Well, that's not good. There's a big ding. I just noticed that right there. We may have to find another drum, because I'll bet you this thing does not spin true anymore with that big dent in it right there. Now this is the brake shoes and the brake hardware that came off of this front suspension assembly. This one here was from, I don't remember what side this was from. Doesn't really matter. But you can see this one here is pretty rusty. We're going to try to clean this up. One of the things that I noticed when this came apart is they did not put any kind of anti-seize. And so you always want to put anti-seize there and on the threads here. This spring here is okay. This one here, I mean, the spring is probably still good. It's just a little got a little surface rust on it. So, but the shoes themselves are they've got plenty of life left in them. So we're going to clean the rust up here, and you know, we're obviously not going to do this in a parts washing tank or anything like that. But we'll get in there with a wire wheel, clean them up, take a look at them, and then make a determination from there. We do have you know, more brake shoes, and so if these shoes here look even remotely questionable, we'll go ahead and replace them. There's no reason to use questionable brake components at all. So we're going to go through and inspect the springs really well. Overall, I think that this whole suspension assembly is going to be a really good bolt-in replacement for Chuck's Jeep, and this way we can go ahead and get it back on the road a lot quicker than if we had to tear all the you know, the bushings out and everything else like that. So at any rate, that's going to about do it for this this installment. Like I said, we're probably going to have several installments in you know, in this project here. So I guess that's about it. We're going to go ahead and sign off for this one. Remember, please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.